Okay, so good morning to everyone. I welcome you to our third class of machine learning. So this is third lecture, and today we'll be covering the aspect of designing the problem. In the previous lecture, uh, we discussed about how well posed problems can look like. So let me quickly have a glance of what we have did in the previous class. Let me share the screen first. Okay, so hope you are able to see the screen. Anyone can acknowledge
Yes,
you are
sir.
able to. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
So let's have a quick glance what we did in the previous class. We discussed about how machine learning deals with multidisciplinary fields. What are the different domains which can involve in machine learning? Then we also had few examples with respect to those domains. How are they contributing towards machine learning? The domains like artificial intelligence, Bayesian methods, and so on, computational theory, control theory, psychology, neurology, and philosophy and statistics, right? Then we talked about few applications of machine learning with taking up few examples of a real-time applications which are implemented practically under different categories, right? So, and then we learned about few well-posed learning problems. What can a problem, how or which problem can be called as a well-posed learning problems from a machine learning point of view. We defined learning, what is learning with respect to machines by defining this definition, that is a computer programming is set to learn from experience E with respect to some class of tasks T and performance measure P if its performance of tasks as measured improves with the experience, right? So that can be called as a learning when it comes to machines, right? So we had an example, we had few examples with respect to that. We discussed examples with respect to checkers game, how a checkers game can be a well-posed problem for a machine learning. Then we had an example of a handwriting recognition. Then also we discussed about a robot driving machine, that is an autonomous vehicle, how it can be a well-posed problem for from a machine learning perspective. Right. So today we'll be taking our lecture forward by discussing this example, playing the checkers game, little bit in detail, right? So before we actually get into it, I actually wanted to make you familiar with the game. I don't know how many of you are well known with the game, the checkers, right? So I had planned to at least show a glimpse of it, but let's not put much into it just for the beginners, those who know about I mean, those who don't know about the game. I believe that most of you must be knowing about this game. But for those who don't know, let's have a quickly a glance over it, how this game looks like, what are the different, aspects that we need to consider. So I hope you are able to see this screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So we'll have a small session, let's say 2 3 minutes of session on this checkers game. So which might interest you because in order to learn the aspects behind how a machine can be trained for the particular game, you need to know about the game first. Right. So this is a normal checkers board, what it looks like. There are few black pieces, there are few red pieces. Few means there are 12 black pieces and 12 red pieces, right? So we have this layout which is mostly similar to what you see in chess, not exactly, but you can say maybe some part of it can be related to chess. So we have these boards here which are, you can see, are placed in a particular fashion wherein you have every piece diagonally placed to it, right? And so is their moves. The moves, every piece moves in a diagonally, only in diagonal fashion. So let me put this aside and you can see if I want to move a particular piece and if I want to move it, let's say front, so it gives me the error saying that the piece can only move diagonally, right? So let's say I am playing with a PC or a system, and black pieces are my pieces, red pieces are the system's pieces. So let's say I play first, placing the piece diagonally, because I cannot place the piece straight, right? So the system makes its move, and again I cannot place it straight. I have to place in the diagonally. So since another rule in the chess in the checkers is, if I place here diagonally, the opponent can cross over my piece and that piece will be gone. So this pieces will be a dead piece. So just to demonstrate, let me put this piece here, and you can see that the opponent has crossed my piece and that piece has been gone. So ultimately, the player which retains uh, his or her piece by the end of the game will be definitely the winner, right? So we don't have any concepts like knight or rook or king or queen, what we have in the chess, right? So there's definitely there's one more aspect. If your piece reaches at the at the top, that is if your piece uh, being successful in reaching the opponent's area, you can say, then your piece turns into a king piece. So I'll demonstrate that also. So just to avoid time, let's say, and there's one more factor just to give you. You can play a a double place. For example, let's say, let me do some error here so that it can be, so this was the move, you can say, and let me move back, and you can see that when I place my black piece here, the opponent has the ability to cross my two pieces. So the moment I put this piece here, it can cross my this piece and this piece, two pieces at the same in the same move, right? So capturing my two pieces. So that gives the advantage to the other player. So that can be one. And let me do one more error here, so that when I move this piece here, you can see, let's say I move this here, and I allow them to capture, and then now you see here that after two captures, one of the red piece has been turned into a king piece. Now this king piece can turn back also, right? So unlike other pieces can only move forward diagonally, whereas the king piece, which is turned, you can see here the red piece has been turned into a king piece. It has the ability to move backward also. So these are few rules when it comes to checkers game, right? So let me exit it, and let's go back to how these things can be trained, how a machine can be trained into these moves or these rules, and how, what solution we can get from this, right? So like we discussed in the previous class, that when we are talking about playing a checkers, so there are three different tasks, right? Three different things that we do. First thing is, that is T is nothing but the what we discussed in our previous class is the task, right? So that task is to play the checkers. And the second entity is the P. P is nothing but the percentage of games won in the tournament or any game or any championship, right? So another aspect that we discussed in our previous lecture was the experience or the performance, right? Experience as in, you can say, let me go back to the definition that we discussed in our lecture, right? So E is the experience. You can see here that E is the experience. So here experience is actually nothing but the games played against itself, right? Or games played before the event. So any doubt with respect to so far we discussed? You can put it in the chat box. Any doubt? I had quickly walk you over the game, because we cannot spend much time playing this game. The whole motive is to just make aware with the rules, normal rules, which we will be training to the system, right? So in order to know what are the background, what is the background process happening, what are the rules to be taken care of, I just walk you through the simple moves which are played in the checkers game. So I hope there are no doubts. So let's move on with the how we can make the system learn about these rules, what we just played. Right. So if you can recall, we discussed three factors. T is the task, which is the task to play the checkers game. P is the percentage of game won, and E is the experience that we will be getting or the system will be getting after playing against itself. Right. So what are we doing here? What exactly should be learned? How it can be represented? Represented means how uh, how shall we represent this model representation from the target point of view? What is the target? What is our target to be achieved there, right? And by by exactly what should we learn, I mean that what type of knowledge should we learn? What exactly should be learned when we're talking about teaching the model? Then how shall it be represented? Representation here means that the representation for target knowledge, whatever knowledge that we're learning here, how it can be represented. So what specific algorithm to be learned upon it? That is nothing but our learning mechanism or the algorithm that we'll be using to train the model. That is nothing but the learning mechanism. So what type of training experience? So there are different types of training experience. There can be different types. Uh, how to choose the training experience. So there are actually three attributes you can say that the first attribute is to first and the key attribute is whether the training experience, whether the training experience, whatever will be training to the model, provides direct or indirect feedback, right? So what is direct and indirect feedback? This direct and indirect feedback will be with regards to the choices made by the performance system. So by direct I mean whenever uh, system can let me give an example here. For example, the the learning in learning the checkers, the system might learn from direct training examples. By direct training example, I means that is which consists of individual checkers, that is individual checkers of board states, and the correct moves for each uh, gameplay, you can say, right? So direct feedback and indirect feedback is what we can say training experience. Another attribute can be the you know so before going on to the another one attribute, that is teacher or not a teacher, that is whether there is learning involved or not learning involved, uh, it is quite evident that the direct feedback learning or the learning from the direct training feedback is typically easier when it compares to indirect. Or just to give a simple analogy, if I tell you to do something directly, it will be easier for you to understand instead of telling you the things indirectly, right? Simple things. If you're having a discussion, let's say you're having a discussion with your friend, teaching the same game, let's say you're teaching this checkers game to your friend, and you are giving the direct instructions that this, if this is the scenario, this is the move to be taken. So that direct feedback will be easier for the other person to learn instead of indirect feedback. But we will learn those things, how this direct, when this direct feedback is essential and when this indirect feedback is essential. These are actually related to supervised learning and you know uh, supervised learning and reinforcement learning and unsupervised learning, like those factors. So those will be learning maybe in subsequent lectures. So right now you have to just understand that there can be different types of training experiences we have to choose. So what type of training experience we'll be choosing on what aspects? So these aspects can be different attributes, direct or indirect feedback. And another important attribute can be the training experience, uh, that is the degree to which the learner controls, which is nothing but the teaching or not teaching, right? So teacher or not teacher is actually the degree to which the learner controls the sequence of training examples, how far this is the model controls the learns, whatever learning has been happening, how far it controls, right? So that is another aspect. And the third attribute is the third attribute for training experience is how well it represents the distribution of examples, right? The representation, how well it represents the distribution of examples over the final system performance. The final system performance is nothing but the our performance goal or the task that we have to achieve or the performance measure that we have to calculate, right? So here, choosing the target function, you can say when we have a target function, the target can be a movement on the chessboard or the checkers board, right? A movement, and movement can be a target. So how can we set that move? What movement can be called as a target move, right? So we have, let's say we have a function called choose move, and then we have board and we have move. So the movement that we'll be doing is actually a part of the board movement. So let me give you a quick, example of what it can be. Like B, B here can be called as a set of legal board states. B can be legal board states. We have already learned about automata theory, different states, like we discussed in the previous lecture. We have initial states, we have some intermediate states, and then we have some final states. So let's say B or the B board is a legal board states B, which has some set of legal moves, and let's say that moves is capital M, right? So we have to select those values which are from the state of board, and those values will be nothing but the real numbers, right? So this symbol R is actually represented by the set of real numbers. Now what is the importance of doing this, choosing this target function? The importance is actually is to determine exactly what type of knowledge, right, or what type of learning, what type of knowledge will be learned, and how this will be used by the performance program, whatever program will be using to train the system. So there are possible definitions to define the target function. The target function V is nothing but the values that we define here, right? So we can see that if B, you can say that B is actually, a simple arbitrary board state, a simple state from the set of which can be capital B, right? So arbitrary B, small b can be arbitrary board state, which is small b in capital B. You can say it's a subset of capital B. So if B is a final state, let's say this B is a final state board that is won. So in that case, then value of B will be 100. And then if this B is a final state board that is lost, let's say that value, the move that we are doing in the game, if that is a final board state and it's a lost, then value of B will be minus 100. Let's say we are reducing the value by minus 100. And if that B is final state board that is draw, let's say that it's a draw, then value of B will be 0. Okay, so no positive 100, no negative 100, it will be simple 0, neutral. And in case if B is not a final state in the game, it's in between, then value of B will be, let's say VB dash, where B dash is the best final board state. That was the best final board state that we could have achieved starting from the B, right? And right from starting from the B and playing optimally, assuming that the game has been played optimally by both the players until the end of the game, and which has led us to the not something which is not a final state. So we can call that state as a VB dash. So this gives us the correct value. This gives us the correct value, but not the operational value, right? So just to give you the brief overview, VB is the target value, small b is the arbitrary board state in capital B, where capital B is the legal board state. Fine. So choosing the representation of the target function have different things involved, like collection of the rules, right? So before moving on to this, any doubt? Okay, Ravi says that, sir, please one more time with different example. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Sir, I got the. I was telling about the previous one, sir. I got clear with that.
Which one? Which slide?
Direct, indirect, and
Okay,
teacher, not teacher.
this one.
Like,
This slide?
yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, fine. So I'll try to explain this once again. Let's say, so what we are doing here is we have different training experiences, but then we have to choose a particular training experience. How can we choose a training experience, right? So there are different aspects, there are different attributes involved when we select or choose different training experiences. What is a training experience? Training experience is actually the number of games played before itself, before any particular event. That is the number of games played with itself, right? So what we discussed in the previous slides, the number of games played with itself. So when we choose that particular training experience, there are three mainly attributes involved. The first attribute is what kind of feedback it is, what kind of feedback that we are getting. So it can be direct feedback or it can be indirect feedback. Let's say like whether the training experience provides direct or indirect feedback regarding the choices made by the performance system. The performance system is the system which is you know into training, the system which is under training, you can say, or simple terms you can say there is the system which is not fully trained, it is still into training phase, and it is learning by its own by selecting these types of attributes, choosing these types of training experiences. So like I mentioned, first attribute can be whether the training experience provides direct or indirect feedback. Simple example I gave again, that in case let's say you want to teach your friend to play checkers. So simple direct feedback would be you are giving plain instructions, simple rules, like if this is the case or this is the scenario, then this is the particular move that you have to do. If this is so and so is the scenario, so and so is the move. That is nothing but we are defining the set, fixed set of rules, you can say, which is nothing but the direct feedback. Indirect is you are telling them the different rules at the same time, and you are allowing the system to learn or adopt those rules and analyzing on its own when to use what move. So you're not telling the system directly what move has to be taken now or at the present situation. You are giving all the information to the system and letting the system decide on its own when to choose what move. So it's indirect feedback, right? So hope it is clear, but this is the first, only the first attributes, only the first attribute. So, like I mentioned, the direct approach, that is nothing but the direct training feedback, is actually typically easier, right? It is actually easier than the learning of indirect feedback. So, but there are different pros and cons to it, which will be which is into little depth, which will be learning in maybe in the next chapter. But right now, just understand that there are three different approaches or the three different attributes to choose a training experience. What type of training experience we have to choose? So this being the first attribute, that is direct or indirect feedback. Second attribute and another important attribute is the teaching or not teaching, whether you're teaching it or not teaching. That is nothing but the degree to which the learner controls, right? When you are giving out some rules to the system, there is a degree to which that system can control. Now this degree is actually the, you can say it's a credit assignment. You can say it's a credit assignment which wherein the degree to which each move, you can say every move have a weightage, you can say weightage in the sequence of deserved credits, right? So, like I mentioned, if you can recall the game that we played, for the single piece to capture, there is a different weightage, and when there are two pieces captured, there are double weightages. There is more points. So if you had, if you have observed the points which were displayed on the right side corner, that the points when you capture two moves at a time, the points are much more higher you get than when you capture only single piece because of the weightage. So this is actually nothing but the credit assignment. The credit assignment is nothing but again the degree to which the learner has the control. This control can be the sequence of the training example, right? So this can be the simple example what you can give. But again, there are three different attributes when we talk about choosing the training experience. So this being the second, the third attribute is actually the representation, how well we represent it, right? How well it represents the distribution of example, which is nothing but our performance goal, the distribution of the example over the system performance. So these are the three different attributes. Hope it clears your aspect of how can we choose the training experience. Ravi? Yeah, you got clear. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
See,
I
so
got clear.
these are the three different attributes which are used to select a target function. And once we have the target function, we can have definition under those. What are the possible definitions for those target function? So in this case, what we discussed, like if the final state is won, we say plus 100. If the final state is lost, we say minus 100. The values assigned is minus 100. If it is a draw, it's a neutral value or it's neither plus 100 nor minus 100, it's a simple neutral. And if the final state is not actually, if the state is not a final state, then we define that state as a VB dash, where B dash, you can say that you played to your best of your abilities, but you didn't win. You played optimally. The moves that you played were actually to the mark, but unfortunately you didn't win. So that state you can say as a B dash, VB dash, where B dash is the best final state that can be achieved starting from B and playing optimally until the end of the game, assuming that the opponent has also played optimally, right? So this gives us the correct values, but not the operational values. Operational values, by operational value, I mean it doesn't give us the actual moves that we can perform. It only helps us learn different definitions to achieve a particular target. Let's say target can be to win the game. So moving forward, let's say how to represent. So when we talk about the third aspect, how well can we represent that target function? So representation has different aspects. Again, it has few set of rules, few collection of rules to be set off, right? So then there is a network that need to be defined, and then we have set of function, a polynomial function. The function here is not the program function. A function is actually a polynomial function wherein uh, there will be set of expressions which will be leading to kind of values, and those values will tell us what to be done in the uh, in the moves for the representation of the target function, or what moves to be chosen, right? So this is you can say this is a polynomial function which is also called which can be our learned function. This is the function which we can call it as a learned function, and that this is how it is represented. You can say there is a expression, few set of expressions which are somewhat repetitive, and they are summed all together, they are added all together. So we have W naught plus W1 plus W1 into BP into B plus W2 into RP into B, and you can see a few other characters BK, RK, BT, RT. So we will see what what are these characters here. So W is nothing but the weightage, right? Weightage in the initial phase, it is 0, so W naught. When it comes to the next phase, let's say W1, and when it comes to the next phase, that is when it has a phase wherein we have some values to it, then we can say that let's say that piece is a black piece. So BP is nothing but black piece. B, small b, I already now don't confuse between the BP and B. BP is the black piece, and single letter B is actually our value. If you can recall that arbitrary board state in capital B. So you can say it's an intermediate state which is leading us to the target function, right? So BP is the black piece and B is the arbitrary board state or intermediate state. So BP of B gives us the number of black pieces on board B. RP gives us the number of red pieces. If you can recall from the game, let me. Is the screen visible? Is the checkers board visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here you can see BP of B is black pieces on B. So let's say I move this board here and the opponent also plays its move. Now you can see this board. So this state, this is an arbitrary state B, and it's a state of a black piece. So this first statement here exactly represents our this highlighted black piece, right? So which is nothing but the number of black pieces on the board B. And similar case RP, which is this here, the red piece moved by the opponent, which is nothing but the number of red pieces on board B, on the current board. So we are into the intermediate state of the game. We already initiated the game. We are into the intermediate state of the game. We are not yet reached the final state of the game. So in this intermediate scenario, this black piece and this red piece, which has been moved by the system, can be called as a number of red piece on B and number of black pieces on board B. This small b is actually our current state of board. This whole state of board is our current state. And similar case, BK is the black king, what I have showed you in the initially in the beginning of the lecture. One piece will turn into a king piece. Both there can be a black king, there can be a red king. And similarly, the number of red pieces threatened by black piece is represented by BT, and number of black pieces threatened by red pieces can be represented as RT. So RT is red pieces which are threatened, right? Sorry, the number of black pieces which are threatened by red pieces. Just to give you example here in the checkers board, now this red piece which has been moved by the system, the computer, is actually threatened, right? It has been threatened by this black piece which is highlighted. So I can move this black piece here to capture it, right? So, and the computer makes it moves again to capture my black piece. So that is the state of this BT and RT. So when we sum all together, all those computing, all the moves, possible moves in the present state of board, that gives us the learned function. What is the function learned? The current learned function state, we can say. So yeah, so this is the obtaining the training examples. VB is nothing but the true target function, and V bar B, we can say V cap B is the learned function. V train B is the under training value. And one rule of estimating training value is the successor of B, that is V cap of successor of B, that is the previous value or the previous state, is actually the training value for the VB. So coming back to the game board here, you can see that previous board, let me make a back move. So this move was actually the learning to the system. When I moved this piece, black piece here, the system was able to capture this black piece, and this was actually the learning, right? So this value is the successor of B is assigned to trained model, which is under training. It is not fully trained, it is under training. So this move or this state of the board is assigned to the V train, so that the board, the target function has another state of board to learn. So this can be done using choosing the different weights and tuning the rules. So you must have already familiar with the least square mean method, right? Least mean square method, sorry. Least square mean square method, what it does is it squares off all the least mean square weighted values, right? So LMS weight updates this rule repeatedly. This is the pseudo code, you can say, wherein this set of instructions are repeatedly performed, wherein what we do is we select a training example B at random. It can be random. We compute the error. Error can be whatever training that we have done so far, minus the state of the current state. You can see the state of the arbitrary state of B, right? And for each board feature, now every feature we update the weight. This weight we update by calculating the constant, the product of the constant, the feature, as well as the error that we calculate. So don't worry much here. It is simple weight calculation that we do by computing the C constant and the feature that we extract. So C can be some constant. It can be anything. It can be, let's say, in this case, 0.1. You can also keep 0.2 or 0.3, 0.5, anything. But the least the value, the better the weightage will be, and the better the model will be trained, right? So this can be to the constant that we add here, which is 0.1 in this case. This is to moderate the rate of learning. It actually moderates the overall rate of learning. If you give 0.5, then the moderate level is little high, and the rate of learning is, with some gap, you can say. So just to give in simple terms, if you give the less value here, the model will be trained better. If you give higher value, the model will be trained for intervals. It will be trained for few gaps. So it might not fill all the gaps, and resulting into not getting trained fully. So we'll understand about how to design and design this particular model maybe in the next class. So whatever we did in the today's class, I wanted you take down as notes, and this can be taken as the first assignment, that whatever we'll be discussing here in the first module, you are supposed to take down these notes, and these notes will be your assignments, right? So that's all for today's lecture. Any doubt with respect to anything? I know things will be little blur because we cannot. We will discuss as and when we take some examples. So in the next class, let's say we will discuss with respect to proper flow of it, proper flow diagram, and design the problem, how that can be, whatever we discussed today, that can be implemented, right? So far, is it clear? Okay, fine. So one more thing. I have to. What we'll be doing is I have created the Google Classroom, and that Google Classroom. I'll just share you the link here also in the chat box, so that if you can join, and which I have already shared in the message in the WhatsApp group also, to join that classroom. So what you can do is you can join that link. I can see a few people have already joined. So I'll just quickly share the screen with you. Or maybe, okay, since the time is up, I will take up in the next lecture. But meanwhile, I have circulated the link. Let me do it once again. Okay, so in the chat box section, I'm just putting a link. Those who have not joined the Google Classroom, you can simply click on the link and join the Google Classroom, so that whatever material, whatever study that we'll be doing, whatever study material we'll be discussing here, that all will be available at in the single umbrella. Okay, so I hope that you get acquainted with the Google Classroom tool. We will have a short understanding of how that Google Classroom work in probably in the next lecture. I wanted to do it in today's lecture, but we have already lapsed the lecture time. So let's do it in the next lecture. Fine. So I hope the things are clear. So any doubt so far before me winding up?
No, sir.
Okay, no doubt. Okay, fine. I can understand there might be few blur things, few things which have not gone inside, but you can go. I'll upload this lecture on the YouTube. You can go rewind it wherever you have stuck. You can refer back it again. Okay, so that's all for today's lecture. Thank you.